So thank you for joining us today, Jo. It was really good to have you with us.
Thank you very much for having me.
I'm looking forward to speaking with you again. So tell us a little bit about your organisation then, if you can. If you just start, tell us about WCF. Tell us about what you're working toward, please.
Yep, I mean, WCF is a really special organisation. It's in part employee-owned business. It's been around for over 100 and odd years. And our real vision and our real mission is to make sure that it's around for another 100 and odd years as well, minimum. So part of why it's been so successful is its diversity, but also its resilience and its continued ability to change. So really the business looks very different to when it was set up in 1911. But even in the 20 years that I've been there, it's very, very different to how it was even when I started. So the mix of businesses that we have now is fairly new. So we've done a lot of acquisitions in the last 5 or 6 years. Really the purpose of the next sort of short-term period is very much looking at how do we, maximise the value from those acquisitions that we've made within the structure of WCF. So one of the reasons that it's so special to me is the fact that all our businesses, we have 13 different businesses, and they're all run very independently. Under the sort of guise of WCF. So within each business, we have a general manager who runs those businesses on a day-to-day basis. But from a central point of view, and from my point of view, we provide sort of strategic guidance, leadership, challenge, expertise. And some of those businesses are quite small, so they couldn't have access to the level of expertise that they do have if they weren't part of a larger organisation. So we work together with the people on the ground who are obviously very intimate with the customers, to the strategic team at head office, and we work really well together in terms of devising strategies and roadmaps for those businesses to push them on.
Brilliant. Sounds like they get the best of both worlds in that sense, that they work independently, but they've got the support of the wider group.
Very much so, yeah. They've got a huge degree of autonomy. We've got 35 different sites now, so it just isn't possible for anybody to exert significant levels of control. So that divestment of decision making down to the lowest possible level is really key part of who we are and what we do, really. And that's probably the most important thing. If you've got a customer services person on the phone to a customer and that customer's not happy, we don't want that customer services person having to say, I need to go speak to my manager or somebody will call you back. We want them to make the decision in the moment that says, I'm really sorry for that. Let me give you your money back. Let me give you a voucher off, whatever it is. And my experience is they'll tend to give less to make the customer happy than perhaps I would have. So if they'd rang me, I would have probably said, just give them money back. Whereas they're somehow able to, in the moment, regain that relationship and foster that ongoing partnership, which is obviously absolutely critical. Retention is one of the key things for us. And so being able to do that and then having the confidence to do that is a really key part of what we do.
Do you think that that's, this wasn't intended to be my next question, Jo, but I'm really interested to understand the employee ownership element of it. So do you think that has happened because people are managed or empowered in a way to be able to do that? Or do you think it's because of the employee ownership or a combination of the two?
It's a mixture of both, I think. I think if you don't provide the empowerment, then you can't have the other bit. But our employees certainly feel, being employee owners, they've certainly got that input with the business, that long-term vision, that ability to make decisions for the benefit of the long-term good is really what we're all about. We try and avoid short-term decision-making on the hoof. We very much try and take a long-term view. So but without the empowerment, don't think it would work in isolation. The two have got to go. You can't just sort of say we're employee owned, there you go, and the two have got to go hand in hand.
This sounds like it's working though.
Yes, it's definitely. Mm-hmm. I think it makes people's jobs more exciting and more interesting as well if they've got a 360 view of what they can and can't do. No matter how, no matter what the role, some of our stores, for example, our store managers, they're the ones, they open the store, they lock it up at the end of the day. They're our campsite managers, they're encouraged to treat it as if it's their own, and they do that. Most of the guest reviews will refer to them as, the owners of the site. Now, the guests probably think that they own it in the sense of it being a family business, and obviously it's not, but it's great that our teams are giving out that confidence, that care, that messaging that they are deeply connected with the business, and then owning shares in it obviously really strengthens that sense of connection as well.
And in terms of you as a leader of that organisation, so you've been with the business, is it 20 years next month?
20 years, yes, coming up.
Good for you, congratulations.
Thank you.
And so what kind of challenges are you up against in that type of organisation with that many people and that many sort of organisations in the group? What are you up against?
And I think communication is obviously key. When that communication is divested through many different layers or geographies, then obviously getting the consistency of communication can be right. I think maintaining that balance between, we try not to tell our businesses what to do. We try and work with them to help them to make good decisions. But sometimes we have to, we'll have to have a decision that's sort of centrally led, if you like, and trying to get, ensuring that we get in the buy-in and the ownership of that message from them is really key. Because if they're then divesting that through the organisation, saying, "Oh, eliminate that head office again," what that side. So I think really the communication style and getting that on is really important. We introduced an employee app 12 months ago, just over 12 months ago, which has been absolutely fundamental in us really enforcing the employee ownership thing, enforcing that we're all one family, but helping with that communication. So, for example, we were just chatting before about, we've just won an award at one of our campsites, this morning, to be able to post that on the app and then have people from all around the organisation posting congratulations, for the team at the campsite that have won that award. It's really special. It's, they've got 400 people saying well done, as opposed to 10 of them if they just won it in isolation. And I think that really makes that sense of family as well, in that side of things. So getting the right people, obviously trust is really important. As we know, we invest huge amounts of responsibility, but with that comes an inordinate amount of trust, both financial and otherwise, within our businesses. So employing the right people that you 100% trust is really key, and making sure that you learn together from any mistakes. Most mistakes aren't deliberate, are they? They're unintentional, but making sure that there's no point us divesting responsibility and then the minute somebody makes a decision that you don't agree with, kind of coming down hard, because that's not the point of it. You've got to learn to roll with the flow sometimes, and then it's through learning and coaching and mentoring and things that you can improve people's overall decision making as well. But ultimately it's got to be their decisions, not ours. And then it's getting that balance right, I think, that's really important.
So just going back to communication, in terms of WCF being the structure of organisation that it is, that you've got those sort of different organisations, but it's all one group and you are all one family. In terms of the communications, what I'm really interested in is there, of the brand messaging and the brand communications, are they very different from each other, or is there a sort of a golden thread that goes through all the organisations?
The thread that holds all together is what we call our guiding principles. So that's our values, and our vision, which is about the maintenance. So the organisation as a whole is more important than any of us, and it's very much, we view it as an inheritance, that we've inherited this organisation and it's our legacy to pass it on in a stronger position when we give it. Whether that's in an individual role and you're in that role for 2 years or 2 months, or holistically for a business or overall for the organisation. So that legacy permeates all the way through the organisation, and the values and the behaviours that we expect of those tied into being employee owners. So they permeate down, and then we create consistency. Our businesses are in very different sectors. They're very similar in terms of, so customer intimacy is a really key core pillar for us. Curiosity, growth mindset, innovation is really, really important, as it will be for most organisations. Obviously, empowering people to make a meaningful difference to our performance, that's another one. And obviously, health, safety, responsible, etc. And clearly, the fifth one around our people. So those common core pillars, as we call them, run through all of our businesses, and all of our strategies and roadmaps are built around those core pillars. So whilst the content in them is very, very different, the actual the framework, if you like, is very, very similar. So our people are talking the same language, even if they're in different businesses.
Brilliant. And I guess that almost like a stewardship approach to the employee ownership, that almost, well, it should be a question, does that negate the sort of egoless leadership of the organisations, because everybody's sort of outside of the organisation, it's its own entity, you're in stewardship of it, not sort of, it's my business, I'm leading this.
Absolutely, yeah, definitely. And we actively looking for that when we're recruiting. You want people to be ambitious for the organisation. You want them to be ambitious for themselves, but within the context of the organisation. So we put very little store by job titles and things like that. We do, when we go out to market, actually, we realise how diverse our roles are, because when we go to market, sometimes we end up having almost 3 jobs to replace one person, because we're looking for skills that people have developed over the years, and obviously that keeps them with the organisation, and that their roles, move so much. I mean, my history with the organisation, I came in a finance role. I had ambitions to be the finance director, I'm not going to lie, but it didn't probably extend much more than that when I came in. I was very, wanted to be a commercial finance director, but that was probably about the extent of it. And then the ability just to get involved in lots of different things, either because you could or you would or you were asked to, was really powerful to me, and it opened up to me just what much more I was capable of. And I'm really, really keen that other people in our organisation get that same opportunity and are getting that same opportunity.
So that's normally one of my next questions, is tell me about your journey into leadership. And obviously you've just given us a little bit of an overview, but what was it about this organisation that made you see beyond the finance director role?
It was the old MD, if I'm being perfectly honest. It was the people above me who just, when I first joined, we were in the middle of they were in the middle of a computer project, and it wasn't in my brief at all. And he basically just said, "It's not going that great. Do you think you get your nose in the trough?" kind of thing. I was like, "Well, I don't really know what I'm doing, but yeah, I'll have a go." And I think that was the turning moment, because it thrust me into the heart of the business, and it really, I've never done anything like that before. But that ability then to read into the business and get those insights was really powerful, then to apply it back into the role that I'd come to do. And then I think I hadn't realised how much probably of a people person I actually was, that then that ability to influence people and motivate people is kind of like, yeah, I can do this. So my role just very quickly, I was still in a finance functional role, but very quickly ballooned into being the sort of deputy MD within the organisation. So it was inevitable. There was no recruitment process when my predecessor retired. It was very much, our successor is here and now. Here you go, sort of thing. And great, kudos to the board really for trusting me to do that, and not wanting to go out and benchmark it. And hopefully I've done them proud. But but I think that's a really powerful that almost. And I think we try and do that. It's always, don't push people that they fail, but push people out of their comfort zone to achieve things that they probably didn't even know perhaps that they could achieve, or they even maybe wanted to achieve, by giving them. You're quite protected in our organisation because we are part of a bigger group. We're very diverse. There's obviously lots of people around within the businesses. There's people who do similar roles. So there's a lot of people that can help you, support you, champion you, move you on. It's a really supportive organisation. You're not kind of stuck into a role and left to fail, really, which gives people the confidence, I think, to step up. Most of our general managers come from within our organisation. Occasionally we have to go out and recruit from outside, but we like it where we can develop people upwards and in more, which is great. So,
and great that you're modelling it as well at the top. If people can see you have that 20-year journey, that tells them it's possible, doesn't it, as well?
Our longest serving employee, who is still, he's our health and safety manager now, he's had a number of roles. He's just about to do 50 years service.
Wow.
And he's had a number of roles in the organisation, which is fabulous.
Knowing what you know now then, so when you stepped into that MD role and you sort of had that head up, shoulders back moment, I could do this, would you do anything differently?
Probably not. Would I do anything differently? I think probably I was reflecting on, the sort of things that you maybe would learn from? I think, like anybody, maybe there was a few difficult conversations. I think I inherited a very different structure than the one I've got now, and I probably spent too long dealing with the old people, rather than kind of building the structure that I wanted straight away. It took me a little while to appreciate that I wanted to do that. I probably have done that quicker. I'm surrounding myself with my type of people, if that makes sense. So it was one of the things in the old WCF about being decentralised was quite command and control. Some of the old managers were very much, this is my business, I'll run it. And as long as they delivered in what they were expected to into the group, then they were pretty much left to get on with it. That's not my style at all. I like to be involved. I like to help contribute, etc. So moving the organisation from that command and control into the very collaborative organisation it is today is probably one of the biggest achievements personally for me, but I probably should have started it a bit earlier.
And what was the biggest challenge with that then? Was it getting those old managers that were in that command and control mindset? Was it moving them across to the more collaborative approach, or what was the biggest challenge? Was it comms or?
Yeah, I think some of it was waiting for those managers to retire, if I'm being perfectly honest. I think some of them are still with us today and moving that across. And yeah, I think it was proving the value, I guess, in a way that it wasn't somebody coming in who was interfering, that this was a structure that was meant to be of benefit for everybody, really, in terms of the business. And I think, getting those quick wins, getting those successes and people seeing that. And what we've definitely seen since we've brought everybody together much more is people like to be part of a family. So as our organisation, they've still got their little families within their individual businesses, but that family of WCF now is much stronger. So, we always had this thing about, do they work for their individual business or do they work for WCF? And now I was saying, if you ask most of our staff, they would say I work for WCF, whereas in the past they'd have probably said I work for, and they would have named their individual business unit. Not all of our businesses have WCF in the title, and things. But I would pretty much hazard a guess that the vast majority of our staff now would say I work for WCF, which is absolutely fabulous.
And what's helped you on your journey? So in terms of advice, when you were having those challenging moments or you going through the transitions, was there a piece of advice that anyone had given you that supported you on your leadership journey?
I think, one thing about my dad, I remember my dad saying to me once, you must never get too big for your boots and you should always remember, big typical northern mentality. But that really stuck with me in terms of being authentic, being true, being honest, going back to that, we talked before about that, the difference between personal ambition and ambition for the business. And I think that's really, really important. I think that's stuck with me as well. I think it's been good to have people to challenge. I'm a member of a group of CEOs, stepping outside of your day-to-day, because obviously when you're the CEO, no matter how collaborative your organisation, there's still a limit probably to how much you challenge you being realistic. So being with other people who have no filters, who are quite happy to challenge is really, really important. So and just trust I trust my gut a lot. If it feels wrong and it's waking me up in the middle of the night, then there's a difference, isn't there? Yeah, I think there's a difference between not wanting to do something but knowing that you've got to just man up and get on with it, and the difference to feeling that it's wrong. And I do it quite a lot. We had a board meeting yesterday, and and I said to the team, when we make difficult decisions, we have to trust. We have to challenge each other on whether we're doing it fairly. We still have to do the decision, but we have to challenge each other to make sure that we're doing it the right way. That's important. As I've seen too many examples of companies that have done it really badly, and you shouldn't not do the difficult decisions. We've closed businesses, we've sold businesses, and people have been very dear to me have left and moved on as a result of that. But that's necessary as part of business. But will that person still take your call if you ring them? I think to me that's a really important barometer of whether you did it right or not. So that's important.
I was speaking with an HRD the other day, and they were saying about a couple of people that they'd made redundant in the past, and they were still coming along to Christmas drinks and things. And that is, you're right, that's the barometer. If people still want to keep in touch, even when you've had to deliver the bad news, that's how you know you've done a good job.
Definitely. And again, with us, for that legacy, it's recognising their part in our continued legacy. That business or that person might not be part of our group anymore, but they're still a really important part of that legacy. And we like to, that history is really quite important to us as well. A lot of our employee owners, they keep their shares when they leave, they don't sell them, so they remain part of our family even in retirement, albeit in a slightly different guise. It can be some of our faces critics as well, which is great, because again, you get that unfiltered view sometimes from them. This is you'd see something that they don't like. So,
but you need it though, don't you? It's great to have challenge. Absolutely brilliant to have challenge. And so in terms of leadership advice then, so a lot of the people that listen to the podcast are either your peers, so they're in leadership roles, or there are people that are aspiring to be in leadership roles. Is there a piece of advice that you would share with people that are looking to get into leadership? Sort of if I knew then what I know now.
I think one of the first pieces of advice I was ever given, which has stuck with me forever, is mess up. So, and again, we do that with our people and say, obviously, you've got autonomy, you are going to make mistakes, but for God's sake, please do not hide them, because it gets a lot worse. We'll support our teams through challenges if something goes wrong, but they've got to be honest. And so I think that's really important to me. I think, like, listen to yourself, push yourself into your stretch zone. I think you should live in your stretch zone pretty much all of the time. If the leader, I think if you settle back, and sometimes we all need days where it's an admin day, or it's just a catch-up day, just to bring yourself back down again. But if you're spending too much time doing that, then you're not really pushing yourself out there as well. So
I agree. Good advice. Really good advice. And in terms of challenges for leaders, so you mentioned that you're part of a network of CEOs. What kind of challenges do you foresee coming over the horizon for leaders? And I'm not going to hold you to this, Jo, because I know that we're all driving 100 miles an hour in the fog at the minute, aren't we?
Yeah, I think I think the impact of AI and how much you need to follow it, lead it, develop it, I think is certainly one that my group are talking about at the minute. To the extent of which, if you're in a smaller business, really what should you be doing? And obviously there's lots of easy things that you can be doing, but the extent to which you need to be embraced in all of that as well. Recruitment still in my group is huge. It's getting better, but recruitment of good people has been a significant challenge, and it's held a lot of businesses back, including our own, in terms of bringing in the right people with the right behaviours and the right skills. I mean, we go for a behavioural based process now and try and teach the skills. If we can't, obviously you want something both ideally, but we've decided the behaviours are far more important than the skills to an extent. But so yeah, and I think the certainly in our business, because we're very consumer facing, is the extent to which the cost of living crisis is something that you can validly use as a reason stroke excuse, or how much it's that obviously you need to keep pushing on, you need to keep driving sales, etc. But there's some elements, particularly in our business, that we know, like the campsites, for example, we know that you can see it and we benchmark it, that if people haven't got any money, clearly going off on a nice little hot tub break for a weekend is something that they're not going to do. It doesn't mean that our campsites are performing poorly or whatever. So it's being realistic on that sense. For us, we try and give our teams lots of other things to work on for the long term, so that they're building successes in other areas rather than stressing about the immediacy of what their sales might be this month, which might be less than budget or whatever, just because of things that are outside of their control. I think that control what you can control is also a really important piece of advice that I took on early on, and don't stress about what you can't necessarily influence.
Yeah. I was reading this week about the just thinking about lead measures and lag measures, but actually had put some emphasis on the mindset shift that happens in your people when you shift what you're measuring. So if you're measuring the things that they can control in terms of the inputs rather than the outputs that are often, especially now, out of their control, it can create a massive shift.
Absolutely, definitely. And we had this conversation yesterday, actually. Our fuels business is a very mature business, so it sells 4 products. It's a very mature business. To some extent, how much we sell depends on how cold it is. So when you come to looking at budgets and things, it's pretty much impossible to try and get it right. Even if you get it right over the year, you're definitely not going to get it right on a month-to-month basis. So it creates a bit of uncertainty, and we've budgeted the same way for many, many years, albeit with some tweaks. And I suggested that yesterday and said, and we changed the way that we budget and to be exactly that. So, what's our customer retention percentage? What does that mean? How many new customers do we have to get? And we do all of that anyway as part of our KPIs, but we haven't necessarily rolled that up as part of our budgeting process. And I think it is that where there's so much, like climate change, the world's getting warmer, our fuels business do nothing about that, but they can influence how many calls they make a week or whatever. So we're very much looking to that, and our KPI storyboards, as we call them, which is very much that process, is probably the single most important piece of paper we have in our businesses, more so than our financial accounts or anything. So because they tell the real story of what we're doing and how we're trying to shift things. So,
and in terms of, so we've spoken about the challenges, but in terms of thinking about your influencers, is there a leader, past or present, famous or otherwise, that you particularly admire or you've taken something from? And what was it about them?
Yeah, so mine has got to be Alex Ferguson. So I am a Man United fan, but I think that mixture of that hard, you can't deny that sometimes hard work, getting your head down is you have to do that. But I think his 3 key words, something like preparation, patience, and perseverance, which I think absolutely sums up. And I think he was, I think, a person that my husband hates Man United, but he can't help but he's a person that you have to respect, even though you might not like him or you might not. He's respected. I think as a leader, gaining that respect is one of the hard. It's not hard if you manage it, but you can't come into an organisation with a title and expect the people to follow you. You've got to create that vision, and you've got to create that journey. And I think when you feel like you've got it, it's a really special moment and a special feeling. And I think he had that certainly with his class of 92. Obviously, he was very lucky that he was blessed with a load of talented individuals, but he made those guys work together as a team, and again, that teamwork as well. So for me, yeah, he's a bit of a sporting analogy, but he's a really special. And obviously, the organizer, I took over at WCF as MD at exactly the same time as he retired, and the old MD had been in play position for a very long time, for 30 years or something. And when I started, I was like, oh, and then when David Moyes got sacked, I was like, oh, well, I've outlived David Moyes. And then the next time I got sacked, well, I've outlived. I think I've outlived about 7 now. So I'm like, yes, I must be doing something.
Yeah, definitely doing all right. And have you read his autobiography? Because the next question that I like to ask is, what are you reading? And often Alex Ferguson is one of those people that comes up from the book perspective. Obviously, he's a leader that people recognise and respect, but they have enjoyed his autobiography. So would that be on your reading list, or are there other books that you've read that have influenced you?
Yeah, so from an influence, I mean, I confess from a pleasure point of view, I'm a murder mystery girl, a crime and thriller girl, so nothing to learn from them apart from don't go out in the dark. But
I think you can't be anywhere else when you're reading a novel either, though, can you? And it's important to be able to switch off. So
definitely. I think the 2 books, probably from a business point of view, there's one called First Break All the Rules, which is years old, which is Marcus Buckingham, which is very much around the Gallup employee satisfaction, employee engagement. But there was something in there that resonated with me, which was around people say, but you need to lead people like you want to be led. And they challenged that and said, no, you have to lead people how they want to be led. I think I read it when I was in my 20s, and it really resonated with me about that need to understand and know your people. And I think that's how I have, and it's genuine with me. I'm genuinely interested in my people. I'm genuinely interested in who they are, what they do. Some of the times I'll go to our sites and I'll spend the whole day just walking around, but I'm not necessarily talking about business. I'm talking about family or, whatever's happening in their lives as well. And, yes, it's a business fine. I think it's really important. And then I think that helps you then understand how you get the best out of people. And in our businesses, we've got some of our businesses are quite male dominated. Our fuels businesses, for example, it's a very different environment, for example, to our fashion businesses where there's lots of females and things. And I think adapting your style across the people that you're dealing with is really important. And then the other one that I really like, which everybody laughs when they see it on my desk, is surrounded by idiots. And it reinforces the insights behavioural profiling around the PLR green and stuff, but it's really interesting. So we've behavioural profiled all of our people, and that's been really insightful about who, obviously some people you can guess straight away who they are, but giving people that awareness of themselves, and the book just reinforces that difference. I've used it. I'm red and my husband's green, so I've had to use the book in my personal life as well to kind of, how do I get the most out of this conversation?
Yeah, it's powerful though.
Yeah, I have both of those books pretty much on my desk all of the time. So
it'd be interesting to see the reaction of the people that walk past me on your desk. But it's a conversation starter.
Well, I remember my chair walked in once and he said, "Oh, have you had a bad day?" I said, "No, why?" "What's that book about?" I said, "Oh, the title doesn't really portray what's inside."
And so over the next 6-12 months, what's going to be happening in the business? Obviously more awards, any more acquisitions? I would assume there's lots more growth. What's going to be happening in WCF over the next 6-12 months?
Yeah, so we've literally just completed on a big acquisition just before Christmas. So we bought a competitor in the clothing mail order sector across in Yorkshire, a company called Bella Denotte. So I've been spending most of my time there. So huge integration piece there across the opportunities. We already have 3 ladies mail order brands as well, and very similar demographics. So looking at the opportunities from a marketing and a product perspective across all of those, and it's going to be really exciting in terms of that. Obviously helping the team transition, so it's a founder family business, so transitioning the team across a very collaborative, the delegation of autonomy is going to be a key focus for us as we head across that. We just launched a new brand of our own brand dog feed in our pet stores, so it's really popular in store, but we now want to take that online and take on the world for dog feed on Amazon and all those other things. So digital journey that expanding our sales marketplaces, that's a really key focus for us as we continue our own digital transition. The leisure businesses, the 5-star leisure business. So we've got 3 campsites or camping and glamping sites. So I'd like to make that 5. And that's my short-term vision for those as well. But continuing to invest in those. We can't stand still in those. You just about when you think take something else comes along that's better. So it's constant tweak. That marginal improvement thing is never more prevalent than in the campsite. Every guest review reveals something that, even if it's a 5-star review, that is important to that guest. You think, yes, you need to make sure we make more of that, or we need to do this. So that's great fun. I mean, managing a business with 3 campsites and is wonderful in terms of that offset. It's really good fun to do that as well, and being able to give back to our staff as well, obviously, and say to them, you're part of this journey as well. The ambassadors, you all stay there as well. You tell your family, you tell your friends, you're the ambassadors as well. Because our brands are all very different, they've all got different databases, but actually the commonality, there's, for example, there'll be people who buy clothes from us who also have dogs. There'll be people who buy clothes who also go on holiday. So how do we harness the benefits of that whole database? If you like, to put things in front of our customers that perhaps they didn't even know that we did. If they're loyal to us in one brand, then there's absolutely no reason why they wouldn't be loyal to us in a number of different ones as well. So that's just building on that family. We're a family of brands. We're not a set of individual brands anymore. So that's a key piece for us as well. Building our future leaders is a massive priority for us, to make sure that they're equipped the future as well.
It's a great model. It's fascinating how it's set up, and the potential for it's enormous, isn't it?
It is. It means that we can buy and integrate a lot of different businesses. We've brought in, just in the last 5 years, we've purchased an amenity gardening business, selling garden care products and amenity products to landscapers. We didn't know anything about that sector whatsoever when I first bought the first one in there. But having experts on the ground who do know, plus us with our wider business knowledge, our wider strategic knowledge, and it's great. Obviously, campsites. My only knowledge of campsites was camping myself, but again, being able to input that. We've got a great marketing team, and then those skills again. We used to have a digital marketing executive in one of our businesses and nobody in another business. And now we've said, actually, for example, those people, the skills that they use, it doesn't really matter whether it's campsites or grass seed or fuels. The skills are the same. So now they've got a portfolio. It's almost a bit like being in a marketing agency, if you like. They've got a portfolio of our own brands now that they can, and the quality of their work is better than the result, because they're saying, oh, actually, we've done that in fuels. Well, actually, that might also be relevant in pet and equestrian or whatever. The role is more interesting because they're not just giving the same emails day after day or whatever that might be. So it works really well. And hopefully, from a recruitment point of view, it can get the right people and be attractive to the right people, then they will see the benefit of that in terms of training them.
Definitely. I mean, from a leadership and management perspective as well, that diversity of thought, where you've got the leaders in the fuels business coming across into the clothing business, and it's a completely different model, but there'll be fresh pairs of eyes everywhere. I think it's fascinating.
Yeah, there's no such thing as a daft question, is there? That's why I always say sometimes the daft questions are the ones that make everybody go, yes, actually, we didn't think of that, or whatever. So,
power of diversity, isn't it?
It is. Well, because our people are such expert in their fields, they think, it's like our pet feed people. They're, everybody who's in our store is absolutely passionate about pets and things. And we had this conversation yesterday. It's about, not everybody who walks into our store is as knowledgeable about how to feed their dog as we are. So how do we make sure that we bring them on a journey of knowledge? If they can speak to somebody in store, absolutely fine. That's but if there's it's a particularly busy day and they're walking on their own, how do we make sure that they're getting that advice, etc., virtually or whatever that might be, when they're in the store, to help them on that journey as well. So what's obvious to you isn't obvious to everybody else. So
it's like your pet food people, your pet store people will be the people that will make the campsites as dog friendly as they could possibly be. For example, it's all that cross-pollination that I find really interesting.
It is. I mean, we're doing doggy welcome packs in the campsites, and obviously our own brand dog feed will form part of those doggy welcome packs. Now, we got, one of our campsites was they all scored really highly in the dog friendly awards, which was voted for by the public. It's just little things like putting really sturdy rings on the pitches so that they can hook the lead on and not worry about the dog pulling it out of the muddy ground or whatever it is, or if they've forgotten what, and putting dog beds in the lodges to try and make the dog a bit more comfortable. They're all just little things. Dog walks, we've put dog washes in all the sites now, so that when they've been out for a walk, there's hot water to wash them. They're not having to be hose piped down and things. So, but you're right, it helps when the team are dog lovers as well, because they're coming up with the ideas themselves.
It's those marginal gains that you spoke about. Those tiny little things that all keep adding up across the business that just make a difference. Brilliant. Well, congratulations on it all, Jo, because it sounds fantastic. It's a brilliant model, and I wish you all the success for the future. But thank you for sharing your journey and sharing your story.
Thank you so much for having me. Let me tell it. It's been great. It really is a really special business to lead. I'm very fortunate.
Fantastic. Thanks for listening to the Human CEO podcast. If you enjoyed this conversation, please help us share more leadership content by liking and subscribing. If today's episode got you thinking about unleashing the full potential of your organisation's culture, we've got a great next step for you. Take our free assessment at humanculture.scoreapp.com to see where your organisation stands and discover actionable insights to elevate your workplace culture.